Thanks for joining us today. I'm Deidre Porche, a managing director for business banking, helping to serve clients just like you. Our Chase chats are open conversations about money and how to help you make the most of yours. On behalf of my many colleagues who work with small businesses, I'm pleased to present this Chase Chats webcast on loan forgiveness for the 2021 Paycheck Protection Program. We'll talk about key factors that are the same from the 2020 program, as well as those that are different this year. We put this session together to help you understand some of the key points of the loan forgiveness rules for the Small Business Administration and to guide you through our request process. We recommend that you watch this whole webcast before requesting forgiveness. One point I really want to stress, please be prepared as possible before you start your request. When you're fully prepared, it should take you less than an hour to complete the request. As you progress through the request, you can stop and save your work at the bottom of each page. Also a reminder, this is a U.S. SBA program that participating lenders facilitate on behalf of the SBA. All loans are subject to requirements of the SBA program. Please review the latest program details at sba.gov or treasury.gov. So here's what we'll cover in today's webcast: forgiveness basics, program updates, how to prepare, which includes what pre-work will be involved, what info we will pre-fill, and documents to have handy. We'll cover the request process, and we'll dive into the request and walk you through each of the 3 SBA forgiveness forms. Now, forgiveness basics. I want to remind you that whether you received PPP funding in 2020 or 2021, you can request loan forgiveness through your lender when they are ready, who will send it on to the SBA for decision. If the SBA approves your request, you won't have to pay back the forgiven portion of your loan. Of course, forgiveness is neither automatic nor guaranteed. As I said, preparing to request forgiveness is crucial, and you start by documenting how you spent your loan funds. You have until your loan maturity date to request forgiveness. You generally won't have to start making any loan payments until 10 months after the max 24-week covered period ends. If you request forgiveness during this deferral period, you won't have to start making payments on unforgiven amounts until the SBA provides a decision on your request or remits funds. Now, program updates. So let me highlight where we are on key factors for forgiveness. To receive full forgiveness, you must use at least 60% of your loan proceeds for eligible payroll costs and no more than 40% on eligible non-payroll costs. Otherwise, you may only be eligible for partial forgiveness. If you have a PPP loan from 2020 and one from 2021, you must request forgiveness separately for each loan. For a 2021 loan of $150,000 or more, you must request forgiveness at the same time for both the 2020 and 2021 loans, or request forgiveness in this order. Step 1, request forgiveness on your 2020 PPP loan, even if you are requesting $0 of forgiveness. Step 2, request forgiveness for your 2021 PPP loans. There are 3 SBA forgiveness request forms. Form 3508S is for PPP loans of $150,000 or less. Most of you will use this form. Note, For the 3508S, you don't need documentation for your 2020 PPP loan. However, if you're requesting forgiveness on your 2021 loan, you must provide documentation that shows you had at least a 25% reduction in gross receipts. Form 3508EZ is for PPP loans over $150,000 for businesses that meet certain qualifications. Form 3508, use this if you have a loan that cannot use Form 3508S or Form 3508EZ. The covered period is now more flexible. It is the time period for which to use your PPP loan funds on eligible costs. It starts the day your loan funds were deposited into your Chase business checking account and ends at the minimum 8 weeks or the maximum of 24 weeks. You choose the exact date. If you got PPP loans in 2020 and 2021, your covered period for your first and second loan cannot overlap. Note, there is no longer an alternative payroll covered period for 2021 loans. If you request forgiveness within the deferral period, 10 months after the maximum 24-week covered period, you will need to start making payments once the SBA makes a decision on your request and remits any payment. If you request forgiveness after the deferral period, which is 10 months after the maximum 24-week covered period, or if you don't request forgiveness at all, you will have to start making payments on your loan balance about 15 months after your loan was dispersed. For example, for first PPP loans dispersed in April 2020, no payments are due before July 2021. Remember, you have until the maturity date of your loan to request forgiveness. If your loan is $50,000 or less, you are exempt from any full-time equivalency or FTE reductions. However, you will need to calculate your FTE reduction and verify if you meet safe harbor qualifications. If your loan is less than $50,000, but together with your affiliates, if applicable, received PPP loans of $2 million or more for either your first or second PPP loan. If your loan is more than $50,000, or if your 2021 PPP loan was $2 million or more. You can find specifics on how to calculate these reductions on page 4 of Form 3508 Instructions for PPP Schedule A. Rents, utilities, and mortgage interest have been eligible non-payroll expenses for agreements established before February 15, 2020. Now, the SBA has added 4 more categories you can include in your forgiveness request. Covered operations expenditures, covered property damage costs during 2020 not covered by insurance, covered supplier costs, and covered worker protection expenditures. They also expanded payroll costs to include employer-paid group health, life, disability, vision, and dental insurance, including employer contributions to a self-insured, employer-sponsored group health plan. I hope that you found these highlights helpful in getting ready to request forgiveness. Of course, there are some exceptions. As always, for full program details, visit sba.gov/PPP and treasury.gov. Now, how to prepare. We know you may still have questions, so we've created some additional resources to help you prepare. In particular, you should review the pre-request checklist on our website. The checklist walks you through steps you need to complete and items to consider when calculating your forgiveness amount. And all that preparation should really pay off. Once you've done all that, we believe it should take you less than an hour to complete the online forgiveness request. Also, you may want to contact your accountant, attorney, or other trusted advisors before requesting forgiveness. It's your obligation as the borrower to understand the SBA's rules. Other eligibility requirements may apply. Please visit sba.gov or treasury.gov for any updates. Now onto the request process. Let's dive into the actual submission. Here, my goal is to give you an overview so you'll know what to expect. I'm going to walk you through all 7 sections of our loan forgiveness requests for 2020 and 2021 PPP loans. I'll try to address common questions along the way. But here are some important logistics. You must be an authorized representative on your account to submit a forgiveness request. Also, use a laptop or desktop computer. You can't submit a forgiveness request using a mobile device. Have only one Chase.com browser window session open while completing your request, or you may lose all of your work and have to restart your request. Save your progress on your request every time you complete a page by choosing Next. Be sure to sign in to the Chase.com account that is associated with the business that is requesting loan forgiveness. Now, choose your business. In this section, you answer questions about your business. We'll ask if this is your first or second PPP loan, because there are a few key differences. Remember, if you received a 2020 and a 2021 PPP loan, and your second loan is more than $150,000, you should request forgiveness at the same time for both loans, or request forgiveness in this order. Step 1, request forgiveness on your first PPP loan, even if you're requesting $0 of forgiveness. And then step 2, request forgiveness for your second PPP loan. Now, determine which SBA form the business can use to complete the request. We're going to review the criteria on which SBA form to use depending on your loan amount. If your loan amount is $150,000 or less, you can use SBA Form 3508S. You have to do fewer calculations and provide less documentation. You can use SBA Form 3508EZ if your loan is more than $150,000, and you can check one of these 2 boxes. You can check box 1 if you didn't reduce annual salary or hourly wages of any employee by more than 25% during the covered period compared to the most recent full quarter before the covered period, and you didn't reduce the number of employees or the average paid hours of employees between January 1st, 2020 and the end of the covered period. Now, you can check box 2 if you didn't reduce annual salary or hourly wages of any employee by more than 25% during the covered period compared to the most recent full quarter before the covered period, and you were unable to operate your business during the covered period at the same level of business activity as before February 15, 2020, due to compliance with COVID-19 government requirements or guidance. Generally, these requirements refer to requirements or guidance set between March 1st and December 31st, 2020 by the Secretary of Health and Human Services, the Director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, related to the maintenance of standards of sanitation, social distancing, or any other work or customer safety requirements related to COVID-19. If your loan is more than $150,000 and you can't check box number 1 or 2 on Form 3508EZ, you can use SBA Form 3508. Now, let's review your business and payroll information. We'll review the pre-filled information for your business and payroll information for accuracy. Check your business and PPP loan information. Here, you'll need to confirm your business information, including business legal name, email address, primary contact, business phone number, DBA or trade name, business address, business tax identification number, and NAICS or your business activity code. You'll need to confirm your PPP loan information, including first or second PPP loan, SBA PPP loan number, Chase PPP loan number, PPP loan amount, and PPP loan disbursement date. After the pre-filled section, you'll need to provide some important information about your payroll costs. Now, this is likely to be a difficult part of the application. That's why we really want you to prepare this material before signing in to request forgiveness. We'll enter your covered period start date, the date loan funds were deposited into your Chase business checking account. You'll need to provide your covered period end date. This can be the date you choose. That is at least 8 weeks after loan disbursement, but no more than 24 weeks after. Enter the number of employees you had at the time you applied for your loan and at the time you submit your forgiveness request. Tell us if you, together with your affiliates, if applicable, received PPP loans of $2 million or more for either your first or second PPP loan by checking the box on your submission. If you did, you will need to include any reductions to FTE or salary/wages in your forgiveness calculation. Next, you need to enter your eligible costs to calculate your potential forgiveness amount. The requirements for this are different based on the form you use and your loan amount. Keep in mind that if your loan is more than $50,000 and your payroll costs are less than 60% of your requested forgiveness amount, you may need to adjust your forgiveness amount for any reductions in FTE employees or employees' salary/wages, no matter what form you use. If using Form 3508S, if you had a second PPP loan less than $150,000, we'll ask you to tell us your gross receipts amount, and you'll need to provide supporting documentation showing your business had at least 25% reduction in gross receipts later on. If your loan is more than $50,000, you may need to adjust your forgiveness amount for any reductions in FTE employees or employee salary/wages. You'll enter your payroll costs to calculate your forgiveness amount. The payroll cost you enter must be at least 60% of your requested forgiveness amount. If it is not, we will ask you to update the payroll amount above or the forgiveness amount below. If using Form 3508EZ, enter your payroll costs following the 3508EZ instructions, which include eligible payroll costs, cash compensation, employee benefits, owner compensation. Enter your non-payroll eligible costs. But note, if you enter payroll costs that are equal to or more than your loan amount, you can request forgiveness for the full PPP loan amount without entering your non-payroll costs. Review your potential forgiveness amounts, which will be calculated for you, your payroll and non-payroll costs, your PPP loan amount, and your payroll cost 60% requirement. The lowest of these three costs will be your requested forgiveness amount. If using Form 3508, there are more fields to fill out. Use the PPP Schedule A to determine your total payroll costs and your total FTE reductions, if these apply to you. For payroll, you'll include tables 1 and 2 on the SBA Schedule A worksheet, as well as your non-cash compensation payroll costs, employee benefits, and compensation to owners. You'll need to calculate your FTE reduction, if any, and see if you qualify for Safe Harbor 1 or 2. Then you'll calculate your non-payroll costs. In the last section, you'll see your payroll amount, less FTE reductions, your PPP loan amount, and your payroll costs 60% requirement. Your forgiveness amount will be the lowest of the three amounts. There are some important things to note. If the forgiveness amount you're requesting is less than your loan amount and you believe you can still use your remaining loan funds on eligible expenses, you may want to save your request and wait to submit at a later date. If you file for forgiveness within 10 months after the end of the maximum 24-week covered period, you won't have to make payments on your loan until the SBA makes a forgiveness payment to the lender or refuses to make a forgiveness payment to the lender. Now listen, I know you've heard me say this before, but it's really important, and so I want to repeat it. We recommend that you prepare this information and gather supporting documentation before logging in to request forgiveness. Now, let's go on to the next section. Document upload. The documents you provide in this section will support the expenses you are submitting. We recommend you keep all the documents you used for your records in case the SBA requests them. Remember, if you used Form 3508S and have a second loan, $150,000 or less, you must upload supporting documentation that your business had at least a 25% reduction in gross receipts. You didn't have to upload those when you applied for the loan. Upload documents from a laptop or desktop computer. Uploading from a phone or tablet won't work. For detailed information about which documents you will need to upload, go to our forgiveness website. Please make sure to follow these nitty-gritty file requirements when preparing and uploading your documents. You can also find these on our website. The files must be easy to read, have password protections removed, have names of no more than 40 characters, have names that don't include special characters, be either PDF, JPEG, Excel, or PNG, be 5 megabytes or smaller, and not be a scan of a paper PPP loan forgiveness request. Let's move on to the next section. We're almost done. PPP Borrower Demographic Information Form. Select yes or no to tell us if you want to provide demographic information about your owners and principals. It's up to you if you want to provide it. It won't have any impact on your loan forgiveness. If you select yes, you'll answer basic questions about your owners and principals. If you select no thanks, you'll proceed to the final section of the request, certifications and authorizations. All right, we've made it to the last section of the request. Please read each certification thoroughly and check the box to attest to each. As the person completing the request, you're making the representations and certifications on behalf of the borrower. When ready, click Submit to apply. Confirmation. When you see this confirmation page, you'll know you submitted your forgiveness request successfully. It will generally take us up to 60 days to review your request. Once we submit it to the SBA, it may take up to 90 days for the SBA to review a complete request. Actual times may vary for both us and for the SBA. If we need more information from you about your request, we'll email you. You can download, print, and save your completed forgiveness request. You can also view your request status online by clicking on the application status blue link. Listen, thanks for sticking with me today through the forgiveness request. I hope you found our time together today helpful as you prepare to submit your request. Before we go, I want to remind you that if you complete all the necessary pre-work, the forgiveness request process should take less than an hour. Keep visiting chase.com/loan forgiveness for the latest updates and resources. All of us here at Chase know how important receiving forgiveness on these loans are to you and your business. We're here for you. Thank you so much for your business and have an excellent day.